Hi, Janita. Welcome to Interesting Lives of Ordinary People. It's so lovely to have you here. How are you feeling today?
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me here.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'm so looking forward to this conversation. Now, before we begin, I'm just going to quickly introduce who you are and how you describe yourself and what you do, okay? Because for people who don't know who you are, I think it'd be really a great place to start. So, Janita Porecha is an animal communicator and pet nutritionist. And in her own words, she telepathically communicates with animals and she's kind of the bridge between what's going on with your pet and what they're trying to say to you but maybe are unable to really express their voice. So she wants your pet's voice to be truly heard, so you know what's going on in their mind, how they're thinking, how they're feeling, and any mysteries that could be easily solved. So I just want to say to my listeners that there's a more detailed description of what Janita does in the show notes. So please go and take a look. And if you have a pet whose behavior is proving to be a mystery to you, I would say please get in touch with Janita. She's brilliant. She's already helped me with my cat Bubbles, and I'm so grateful to her. So, Janita, tell me a little bit about the turning point for you because you're still very young. So, you've come to this, obviously, something really influenced you to go down this path? What was that turning point?
Okay, so honestly, I didn't know what I was getting into when I started. I was 16 when I attended a workshop that taught animal communication, and I just thought of it as a fun workshop. I was barely done with my 10th grade, so I had a lot of free time. So, for fun, I just went to attend the workshop, not realizing that the age group also at the workshop would be like people who are 40 plus. I was the only one who was 16 over there, and I thought it was more about just understanding, body language and understanding how to play with your dog and all those sorts of things. And what happened was over there, so it was a 2 day workshop that I attended, and in the first 10 minutes, we learned how to communicate with animals, and for the rest of the 2 days, we were just practicing. So
Yeah.
that was fun, and we spoke to each other's dogs and cats within the workshop, and it was fun. And then after that, it was more of something that I found very fascinating. So I told my friends about it, and I would practice with my friends, dogs, and cats. And everyone's first reaction was that, oh no, you're crazy. This is not a real thing. Because obviously at 16, my friends would not believe in anything like this, and I didn't blame them. So it was for fun for the first year or so. It was just for fun. I would, ask a person's dog, what's your favorite toy? What do you like to eat? Very, very basic things like that. But because of the way I was doing it in a very friendly way with all my friends and just, for fun and not professionally, my number kept getting sent to other people. And in a year or so, I started, I mean, the dogs that started coming to me were more serious cases of health
Mm.
issues and all those sorts of things. And I had never thought that I would be communicating and asking a dog that has cancer, what do you need and how can your family help you? And that's when I realized that, okay, this is not just fascinating, it's something that is required and something that is, important and serious, not just for fun.
Yeah.
So for the next 1 2 years, I kept getting serious cases like that. Dogs with cancer, chronic issues, diseases. A lot of people would come, like, get in touch with me at the time in the last few months that their dogs were with them. So it started getting very serious.
Can I just pause for a second? So at this point, you were still what, 16, 17 years old?
17. Yeah.
You were still doing your studies and you were doing all this on the side. And
Yeah.
was it just, you were just doing it, out of just the love for the animal, or were you charging? What was going on?
No, so I wasn't charging, it was just out of love. And
Yeah.
I didn't even think of it as a career. Even at that point, I was studying mass media. And my original plan was to be a dancer. I was doing a course with Broadway Dance Center, New York. And that was the main plan. But with, how people started coming to me for these issues, it sort of just became a full time thing. Like, I would probably not even go to college the whole week. I wouldn't attend college because I would be at home doing this work all day.
Yes.
And even during exams, I mean, people who were in touch with me for their dog's health issues were in touch with me every single day. Because a lot of the times, when the dog is sick, you need that attention every day. So
Yeah.
even during exams, it would be difficult to stay in touch with so many people every day. But I would keep a time at night, like at midnight, from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. and reply to everyone.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So okay, I have so many questions. I want us to just, slow things down a little bit. And I want us to go back to that time when you decided to do this animal communication workshop. So what happened before then? Did you had animals, you had pets yourself, or was there a kind of innate love of animals that made you think, oh, this could be quite fun? Tell me more about that.
So I have a puppy. I mean, he's a dog now, but he's always going to be a puppy. And
Yeah.
he was 1 year old at that time. So he was very small, and I did it because I wanted to communicate with him just for fun. I mean, I was 16 and he was one, so it was just like two of us best friends. I wanted to understand him better. But I
Yeah.
had no like thought about what was going to happen in the workshop. I myself was skeptical as to this can't be possible. How can you communicate just through the mind?
Hmm.
Yeah, there isn't much background because it was just like an impulsive decision that yes, I want to do this, and I reached there without any too much thought, or I didn't even do any research. I just reached there. Yeah,
And so you mentioned that they trained you for about 10 minutes and the rest was just practice, practice. Now,
yeah.
I'm not going to ask you to train me and our listeners here, but I'm so curious to know what are the basics of, because I mean, I've done some research on this because I'm fascinated by anyone who can communicate with, non-human living things. And my understanding is all about, calming your mind and just kind of almost becoming like a blank canvas on which the the other living being can actually send a message. Now, it all sounds to me, it sounds possible, but I don't quite know how that actually works, given our minds are so busy. So can you maybe just give us a little bit of guidance on how one would do that?
Okay, so firstly, it's not just about calming your mind. You can be as calm as you are and as poised as you are, but if you have your own opinion in your head, it's going to interfere with what the answer you're receiving. So
Yeah.
if I am in a very calm state and I've meditated, I'm grounded, and all of that is there, but I have very fixated thoughts on how things should be and how someone should look after their animal or anything like that, whether it's right or wrong. If I have my own thoughts, I won't be able to receive the right answer from the pet. So I think that more than being in a calm state is to just switch off your brain and not have an opinion so that you know that you're receiving answers and it's not your mind playing games.
Yeah.
So, firstly, it's just switching off your brain, and then secondly, obviously, you have to be calm. Now, what I've seen a lot is that when people try to be calm, they end up getting more anxious. Like, if you're sitting and meditating and you're not used to that, you're going to get more anxious because a lot of thoughts start coming into your head because you're not used to sitting like that. So,
Yes.
I would say listen to a song and just sit and then switch off your brain and then start. Like, there's no point of overthinking it, just jump into it and start writing everything the animal is telling you. That's it.
Yes. And in your workshop itself, were the animals actually theirs? Did you take your animal with you to the workshop to do the practice, or no?
No,
So
there
the
were no
animal doesn't have
animals.
to be there physically with
No,
you.
no.
Okay. So tell us more about that. So in the beginning, were you already quite good with meditating and calming your mind? How easy or difficult was it for you during that workshop?
So honestly, I actually had an upper hand because see, I never meditated. As I told you, I wanted to be a dancer, so I was a very jumpy kid. But the thing is that I was just 16, so I didn't have those many opinions and things that would stress me out. I was just done with 10th grade, so like I didn't really have any thoughts or anything like that. So that was very easy for me as compared to the people that were there already. Like I'll give you an example. A couple of people that were there were people who work with rescuing animals and they are very passionate about what they do, so they already have that anger about how people treat animals and all those things in your head. And also, I mean, a 40-year-old would have a different mindset as compared to a 16-year-old. So I didn't have those many opinions for me to switch them off. So I
Yeah.
found it easier to just start with rather than calming my mind because there was really nothing in my head.
I love that. And so tell us a little bit about what your early experience, during that workshop when your first attempt, what was that like?
My first attempt, actually quite interesting, was with a dog named Uno, and like my teacher, there were 22 of us in the workshop, and my teacher just showed us a picture and said, "You'll try and see what you'll get from the animal." And the first thing that I got is that Uno loves fish,
Mm.
not to eat, but to watch them. And I thought that this is not possible because where is a dog going to find fish? And then later on, when I told the teacher that, this is what I got, but I think it's wrong, she said, no, it's not wrong at all because we have a fish tank in the house and the dog spends most of the day sitting there.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's when I realized that, okay, this is not something I can make up in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And how did you get that message? Was it in the form of an image or was it
it was
words?
an image. It was an
With an
image.
image. Is that
Yeah.
how it always is for you? Or for some
No.
people it's different, isn't it? They actually hear someone speaking. Yeah.
Well, it's different with every animal from what
Okay.
I've seen. Sometimes it's just a feeling like if a dog is talking about pain in certain part of their body, I can feel it. Then if it's something that they want to show me, they'll send me an image. And sometimes, very rarely, it's a voice, but normally it's just like a feeling or an image.
And when you say if they've got pain and you feel it, do you feel it in your body, in the
Yeah,
part that they're,
yeah.
oh, that must be quite hard for you.
No, it doesn't like hurt. It's just like, okay, that part of the body is feeling like something is up. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay. So at what point in that workshop did you start to feel confident enough that yes, that I really know what's going on with this animal?
So honestly, it wasn't about confidence. It was just more about trusting the process.
Yeah.
So just like the first time I got that fish answer that I told you about, when I got the answer first, I wasn't gonna say it out loud because I was like, this can't be possible. Why would a dog talk about a fish? But after I said it, and this was luckily the first animal that I spoke to, I started trusting that okay, this is a real thing and we can receive answers. So then it's not about confidence, but I just got excited that okay, this is working. So
Yeah.
then, yeah, so then with every animal, the same thing kept happening. And yeah,
I love that. And so let's sort of fast forward a little bit. So you came back from the workshop, and what did your parents have to say about you spending all these hours on helping animals instead of, focusing on your studies?
they were actually, very open to it. They were the ones encouraging me to go for the workshop.
I love them. Yeah.
They were very interested, and especially my mom, she was asking me all about it. And my dad, in fact, always says that, whatever you're studying, make sure you enjoy it. So obviously I finished my degree and all of that, but he told me that if you don't like what you're studying, don't go ahead with it, you focus on something else. So both my parents were very supportive with this, and they were also excited.
That's amazing. So when
Yeah.
you got back home and you tried to connect with your puppy, what
Yeah.
was that like?
So the thing is that when you connect with your own puppy, you already know so much about them. And as I said, you have to have no opinions and no emotions also, because your emotions can, play with your mind. So with him, it was a little difficult in the beginning to keep my mind out of it because, we've grown up together. But
Yeah.
yeah, slowly, like, say if I'm not in the same place as him and I communicate with him, like, say for those 2 days I was at the workshop and not with him at home. So I was able to communicate with him. But when I came back and he was in front of my face, my emotions came in the way. So that got hard. But then over time, I learned how to, figure that out. Yeah.
That's such an important point, actually. And that's the same for, people in the sort of coaching or therapy profession, which is why generally they say don't coach people you know very well, or, don't try and be a therapist to somebody, I mean, I think professionally it's not allowed anyway but yeah, because your own preconceptions and your previous experience of that person comes in the way. So that's interesting that that happens with animals too. So where are you? How long have you been doing this now, Janita? Has it been? It's now you. This is now your business, right? Or are you still doing this on the side?
So I've been doing this for 7 years now. I am doing it professionally,
Yeah.
but my main thing is pet nutrition. I'm a
Mm.
canine nutritionist, but very interestingly, communication is always a part of it because I don't make diet charts for animals without asking them what will suit their body and what won't suit their body. So
Yes.
it's a part of everything I do. But yeah, I've been doing it for 7 years.
So the animal communication is the bit where you kind of really make the animal feel heard, and like it must be such a relief for them, like finally somebody who understands what's going on in my mind. And how are you able to help the pet parents to, because sometimes it's interesting, isn't it, that when animals are behaving badly, you have these TV programs, right? The pet behaviors, and very often they will say actually it's the pet parents or the owners that need to change the way they are. So have you had any similar experiences where you've had to maybe guide the pet parents to be a different way so that pet can be happier?
So most of them, in fact, I get a lot of calls saying my dog is not behaving properly or they're misbehaving. And firstly, I don't think that's a real thing because everything that goes on in their head is very different. I mean, see, if you tell a human being that in a stressful situation you have to stay calm, you have to keep quiet and sit in one place, no matter what is going on around you, even if it's a situation like panic or there are bombs, like it's as good as a firecracker for a dog is as good as a bomb. So expecting an animal to sit peacefully, if there are things like that in their surroundings, is not possible because we humans wouldn't be able to do the same thing. We would panic, we would scream, we would shout. So expecting a dog, conditioning them to be like that is not that easy. So first I have to explain that to the pet parent, and secondly, a lot of the behaviors that the animals are sort of taking on are the same thing that the human is doing. So say if a human is fighting with everyone in the house, most likely is that the dog is looking at that and behaving the same way. And the dog always says that my pet parent is, screaming at everyone. So I feel like I have to do the same thing. So I have to tell the pet parent that, you need to change your behavior so your animal doesn't see that and behave like you. Because a lot of the times the animal is doing the same thing to teach them that this is not what you're supposed to do. So, putting them in that situation.
Yeah, that's so interesting, isn't it? It's a bit like children, isn't it? Young children are the
Yeah.
same. They kind of mirror what their parents are doing.
Yeah.
And how do the pet parents actually take that sort of feedback, if you like?
See, it's not always a good reaction that I get from them, and
Yeah.
it's not always that they accept that this is what is going on. But the thing is that in the session that I take, it's like a half an hour to 45-minute session where I talk about different aspects of the animal's life and the different things that they've said. So, say there is something like this that I have to bring up, I'll keep it for the end
Mm.
so that the pet parent doesn't think that everything is their fault. First I'll finish the whole thing about all the things that they like and everything that will basically show the pet parent that okay, these are things that are actually true, and we can believe this communication because certain things are very accurate and we can see that happening at home. And in the end I'll just tell them that your dog is mirroring your behavior, and then they accept it. But if I say it in the beginning, the first thing, their mind switches off and they don't want to hear the rest of it.
Yeah, and see that's very, very sort of insightful, because it's about how you deliver a message, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
if someone as young as you are, I think it's amazing that you've already learned, how to sort of deliver messages in a way that's palatable to
Yeah.
someone.
But
Um,
the animal always guides us to how to convey it.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so if there is
Wow.
something that the dog is complaining about,
Yes.
I will ask the dog, how do I say this in a way that your pet parent doesn't feel bad?
Yes.
And sometimes when it's extremely bad, they just say that you have to be blunt and just say it. So then that's what I do. Sometimes they want me to sugarcoat it, so then I sugarcoat it. But I just surrender to the animal, and whatever they do, I just follow the instructions and it works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think also then the the session that you have with the animal, have you over time kind of finessed how you structure it, or do you kind of keep it very open and let the animal take the lead in terms of how they're communicating with you?
So honestly, when I started doing it professionally, I tried to keep a structure.
Yeah.
I always ask pet parents for questions that they want to ask and a list of family members that live with the dog or cat. So in case dog or cat wants to point out and say that this person is doing something that I don't like, or I want to do more of a certain thing with this person, they can point out. But that's it. There's no other structure that I have kept, because every animal is very different. Every situation is very different. So, creating a structure would limit, the answers I would get from the animal. So I just let the animal, speak about whatever. And sometimes they want to make fun of their pet parents and tease them. So all that is included.
I
Yeah.
love it. And do you do all kinds of animals, or is it mainly dogs and cats, or do you have a sort of specialty in terms niche in terms of which animals you prefer?
All animals, honestly. But the thing is that because I have studied canine nutrition and a little bit of cat nutrition also,
Yeah.
I understand their needs a little more. And also the way that I ask questions is that now I have that scientific background in terms of their health and all those sorts of things. So I can tweak my questions and ask about their requirements, about their test reports, what is going on within their body. I know a little bit of the organ system, so I can ask more detailed questions when it comes to dogs and cats, but all animals.
And in terms of you mentioned, obviously when you have a lot of people coming to you because their animal's very unwell or, maybe close to the end of their lives, how does that affect you emotionally? Because, these animals may be going through a lot of suffering.
Mm.
How have you sort of um, stopped yourself from getting sucked into their emotional pain?
So, the first animal that I'd spoken to that passed away, this was when I was 17. So,
Mm,
obviously, at that time, it was a big shock. And for a week, I couldn't take any calls because I was, I was like, this is getting too much. I can't take it. But then, the more it started happening, I realized if I, as a person, I'm the voice for the animal, not just one, but so many. So, if just because one animal is suffering, I'm not able to give my 100% to the others, that is not right, because this gift, it's not a gift, but knowing that I can do this is a gift, not just for me but for everyone. It comes with a responsibility. So I can't just switch off and go inside, and as I said, I'm not supposed to have opinions. So
yeah.
yeah, I just, if something is happening with one animal, I have to stay detached even to communicate. I can't get sucked into their pain.
Yes.
So I've now found a way to, just allow it to flow. I don't have to get, caught up with just one case. It just keeps flowing. And there's always one good case, like one positive thing, a dog's birthday, what does a dog want, for their birthday. And then there's a serious case. So there's a mix of things. It's not just serious cases.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And in terms I love what you said about, that you sound like Spider-Man, with power, great power comes great responsibility kind of thing. But it's so true, isn't it? Because you kind of see yourself as that voice, and if you didn't do what you do, then maybe this animal wouldn't be able to express what they want. Does
Mm.
the animal also guide you in terms of how to take care of yourself? Because obviously they're so wise in terms of how to deliver a message to their parents. Equally, do they help you to sort of shield yourself from the pain?
Yeah, so sometimes initially that would happen a lot, but I feel like now over time, even I've become stronger. So they don't need to do that because they feel like it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they feel like it's required, then they do. Yeah.
Now, I was mentioning, what you did for my bubbles and me recently to some friends, and they're a little bit sort of, left-brained, where's the science, and kind of almost sort of mocking me for believing in this. And you probably get people like that. I mean, people like that probably won't come to you, but how is there science that actually shows how this works? Because I think for a lot of people, they just don't get it. Like, how can you, even like if that animal was in front of you, maybe you read their body language or whatever, but someone who's like somewhere else completely, they just can't get how you do it. So do you have a slight sort of explanation for that?
So I have never even tried to figure out the science behind it, honestly, because I trust what I'm doing, and I've
Yeah.
been doing it for a long period of time now. So I know when I see the changes in animals' lives because of the way I do my work. But if someone comes to me and asks me for the scientific proof, or they're skeptical. I just laugh it off and I say, yeah, I talk to animals, and the conversation gets over because I'm not here to prove anything to anyone.
Yes, yes.
And people who need me, they do come back. Like, even as I said, when I was 17, most of the people made fun of me. Now they are all my clients.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I just let my work do the talking. Like, say I've spoken to an animal and it has worked, it has changed their life.
yes,
That pet parent is going to share their experience with five other people, and that's sort of how it has worked. I haven't had to prove anything to anyone, and I wouldn't even try to. But over the past 7 years, like, just with this word of mouth, without me proving anything to anyone,
yes.
more than 350 animals have come to me for this. So yeah.
That's so amazing. I feel so blessed to have kind of, crossed paths with you. Um, so if I sort of bring it back to you now, because even though you make it sound like it's fairly something you do all the time, you know how to, let it just flow or wash over you, not get affected. But you are a human being. And sometimes when you see an animal suffer, or sometimes even well-intentioned parents of the animal are doing the wrong thing, and you may feel slightly helpless at actually changing that. Do you have any rituals to kind of, help you not get emotionally sucked into that? What sort of things do you do to look after yourself?
I do meditate at least 1 to 2 times a day, but that's only recently that I've started.
Yes,
Just in general, I think it's a good practice. But the thing that gets me out of these difficult conversations and keeps me light is playing with my own dog. I don't think anything can replace that, because when I'm playing with him, I am animals have a way of grounding you again. Like, say you are in a shaky sort of space, you just play with an animal or you spend time and they bring you back to yourself. So that's what I do. I just play with my dog and that does the work. I don't have to do anything else. And also thinking about it, takes you deeper. You just, okay, this was a tough call, and I did as much as I could. Say, a
yes.
pet parent is not willing to listen. I have to, at the end of the day, leave it, because that is between the pet and the pet parent. I can't force and I can't expect them to listen to me, because it is their choice and they think that they're doing the best for their animals. So I have to leave it at that and then go back to living my life and playing with my dog.
And that is such a great way to think about it, because there's only so much you can control,
Yeah.
and you've done your bit. Um, the same principles that we talk about animals and communicating with them. I'm wondering whether that same way of communicating can be used to communicate with, say, a really young child who's obviously doesn't have the language anymore, or even people who have lost the ability to speak, like people, like for example, my lovely cousin passed away last year, and in the last sort of year or so of her life, she slowly started to lose her ability to communicate because she had aphasia, because she had a brain tumor. And I often want, I really wish there was some way for me to just do what you do with, animals who can't speak, to find out what was really going on in her mind. Because for some people, that sort of illness robs them of things that we take for granted, even writing a text message, or, you know, connecting thought with words. What would the sort of thing you do help with people like that or not?
Yeah, of course it does. It does help with people like that. Uh, it at the end of the day, it's just a soul to soul connection, and it's like a heart to heart communication. So it would happen with any living being, I feel. Yeah, it's not limited to just animals. What I do is mainly with animals, but I have seen it work with people as well. Yeah.
Have you personally tried it with anyone who's kind of unwell, unable to communicate?
I haven't tried it honestly with a person that's unwell, but I had a client whose father was really sick and in the same condition that your cousin was,
Yeah.
and they do have a dog as well. So the dog would be able to communicate with the person and tell us about what the person needs. So from diet to everything that the person would want to convey, the dog would absorb that from the person and convey it through me to the family.
Oh my goodness, wow. It's just blown my mind what that means. So,
Yeah.
actually they could have therapy dogs for
Yeah.
people who are unable to communicate. Does that person have to be conscious? I mean, can they can be in a coma and the
Yeah.
animal could still communicate with? That's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. Animals have a different power. I don't even know how to explain. Like, I've had clients who have animals that don't even live in the same city as them. Like, say the children have gone abroad to study, but still the animal knows about exactly what's going on in, the sister's life, and will explain everything to me in so much detail that to me, I think that the sister is living in the house. But then
Wow.
the mom will tell me that, our daughter is not here, she's in Canada. And I myself will be so shocked.
That's just brilliant. I mean, on a sort of deep level, I know this, but when somebody confirms it to me, it just blows my mind. Um, and what about sort of when the animals passed on, like when it's died, do they still communicate? Do they still want to communicate with their families? And, do you help with that sort of communication as well or not?
Yeah, they do want to communicate, but I do help out, but they do it in a way that the human knows that they are communicating with them. Like, I don't always have to be a part of it. The
Yeah.
animal will always show signs and try to communicate with the person directly. But yeah, I do help out in such situations.
Could you give us one or two sort of maybe examples of, an animal that really, really stayed in your mind? Because you've done 350 animals. Was
Yeah.
there one that really kind of like, was a standout experience for you?
Yeah, there was one very special situation. There was a dog in India, and his sister had gone to Australia to study, and she had exams. So there was a time where this
This is
dog,
human sister
human
or
sister, human sister,
dog sister.
no, no, human sister, yeah.
Sorry.
So,
Okay.
so the sister went to Australia to study, and she had exams. And at that time, the dog's human father fell sick, and he was in the hospital with a stomach issue. No one knew how serious it was, but the dog suddenly started behaving very sick, as in showing signs of, like so much sickness that, it would stress everyone else out. So the human sister who was in Australia, she had exams, she called me and she's saying that, listen, my dog is sick, so I don't mind leaving my exams and everything and going back. If you tell me that my dog is sick and I need to go and he wants me back, I will leave everything and I will go back. So normally in such a situation, the animal will never, say something that will stop the human from doing something that's important. Like in a normal situation, the animal would say that no, you finish your exams, because they do really care about their family. But
Yes.
in this specific situation, the dog said no, she has to come back. Tell her to take the next flight and come back home. And to me, it was that, how can I tell someone to skip their exams and take a flight and come back? Because if there is really nothing, and sometimes I do doubt myself. I'm like, how can I expect someone to live and listen to me and do that? But I told her that, your dog is saying come back, but the choice is yours. You do whatever you feel is right. She listened to her dog and she landed over here. That same morning, her dad was critical. She reached the hospital and she saw him once and he passed away. And then
Oh,
later on, the dog said that he acted sick just to bring his human sister back from the other country so that she could see her father one last time. So that was the most touching experience.
wow.
Yeah.
Moving, isn't it? Yeah, I there's have you heard of Rupert Sheldrake?
Yeah.
Uh, and he's done a lot of work on,
Yeah.
dogs and animals who actually, yeah. So there is a little bit of science behind, well, at least anecdotally, there's lots of experiences where pets seem to know things that, you'd never expect. And
Mm.
in terms of kind of uh did you ever have a time where you just found you couldn't connect to the animal or the animal was just not willing to connect with you? Has that ever happened?
So it has happened once. There was an animal who was lost. So someone reached out to me in the beginning when she was lost and said, "Can you find her?" And for some reason, I just wasn't getting a reply. And I tried a couple of times, but it just wasn't happening. And it was because she was abused in the past, so she was scared to speak to anyone, even telepathically. But then later, again, after 14 days passed, she was still missing and no one had found her. So they requested me that again, can you try? Now at this point, obviously the dog was willing to trust because even the dog wanted to go back home,
Mm.
and the dog described her location, and the next day she was found there. And this was a good 20 minutes by car from where her house was.
Yeah.
So it's not possible to even imagine that she could be there. It was she connected, but after 14 days. So it does happen, sometimes where they aren't willing to communicate in the moment, but as time passes and they start opening up.
That's such an interesting reminder that even with the animals, you need permission.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just assume that just because they're an animal, they'll want to talk to you. That's amazing. And what was the reason that this particular dog was lost? Was he or she running away from a family where they felt unsafe, or can you tell us a bit more about that?
So basically, her family was traveling, and she
Yeah.
must have, I think, just been home with the staff. And she's used to being around her area without the leash, and she's very scared of men because she was abused in the past by a man. So, she must have seen two, three, men and just started running and then lost direction.
Ah,
So that's what happened.
oh, I
Yeah.
see. So she was abused, not in the family that she was with.
No, not in the family.
She
Yeah,
was
just in the past.
rescued. I
Yeah.
see. Oh, that makes that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's it must be particularly true for animals that are rescued, and then they must have PTSD and things like that. And do you come across animals like that? And how do you help them? How many do you have to do several sessions, kind of give them almost like therapy, or is it just a case of having their voice heard?
No, it's just about explaining. It's not a couple of sessions because the animals are very specific as to what they require. So normally in one session, I'm at least able to decode what they are trying to say and how they're trying to convey. Like if they are shivering and the pet parent doesn't understand why they're shivering in a certain situation, and just decoding that, and also when the pet explains to me that okay, this is what traumatizes me, or I'm really scared of it. In the conversation, only I'll ask the animal that, what would help you in this situation? What can your family do to help you feel better? And then I just convey that to the pet parents, and they start, including all of those things in their daily lives, and it sort of gets sorted out. And I also am a batch flower therapist. So I do make remedies for animals who have such issues by
Yes.
asking them what they need.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that because we've spent so much time on the animal communication, which that's the bit that most people
Mhm.
be less familiar with. So tell us a little bit about the nutrition bit. And certainly from my conversation with you for my cat, I learned things. I mean, I love my cat. I've had her for 10 years and I was just like, wow, I never knew. Like, for example, her specifically saying she would occasionally like to try French fries, like, well, who knew? And that she wanted sweet potato in her food. Um, can you tell us a little bit about, the simple things that pet parents could do for their pet that gives them a more nutritious meal or, takes care of their sort of uh yeah, their pet's physical health in a more sort of
Okay, so honestly, the most
Mm.
important thing is to see whether your dog is, I don't know how to explain, but in Ayurveda, at least, you know how there are different body types and a warm body, a cooler body, and all those sorts of things. Even
Yes,
in general, in nutrition, so I basically follow traditional Chinese medicine, food therapy while making my diets because that has a separate diet plan for each body type. So,
yes,
see, there is a warm dog who is always sitting in the AC, can't stand any warm flooring, needs to be on a cold marble, a little bit aggressive, all signs of heat in the body. You have to be able to see that and then give cooling foods to balance out the body because that not only affects their physical health but also their emotions and their hormones and all those sorts of things. So
Mm.
instead of just following what you see or online or what someone has told you about nutrition, you really have to keep an eye on your dog every day and see what the requirements are, and those requirements can change with changes in stress levels,
Yes,
changes in what the family eats. Like sometimes the family will go on a diet and the dog will stop eating, and then the dog also wants to be included in the changes that the family is going through. So
yes.
it is very situational. There is no one specific rule that works for every animal. Even the quantities of food, how many times to feed a day. I know there are a lot of research papers and all of that that say that you should feed your dog only once or twice a day. But you need to see what works for your animal. You can't just follow anything. And honestly, I have also studied all the science behind it. But while I'm making diet plans, I just surrender to the animal and see what the body needs and how
Yes.
to give it to them. Because just applying science, it doesn't work.
So the animal really is the best guide
Yeah.
to what, and it just knows what it needs.
Yeah, just
What,
like humans, like food is such an important thing. It's the building block. So
yeah,
we, after a point, can make those change. Once you grow up, you make those decisions for yourself that this is suiting my body and this isn't. And I don't like the texture of this. I'm not gonna have it. But for dogs, they don't have that option. They have to eat whatever's in their bowl. And if they're
yeah,
not eating it, I know a lot of people say that take the bowl away. Keep it back in a couple of hours so they learn that they have to eat what it is. But what if it's just not suiting them? You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And are cats very different in terms of eating habits? Because, I know dogs sort of, when you're eating, they come to the table and they kind of give you puppy dog eyes, like, I want some. Yeah, my cat never does that, touch wood. She's very, yeah, she's never done that. And I just wonder whether you find that the cat nutrition sort of, the way you think about nutrition for cats is very different to dogs. Tell me a little bit about that.
No, honestly, I don't think of it as different for dogs and cats. A lot of cats do the same thing. My dog is like your cat. He's not interested in what we're eating. So
Yeah.
every animal is different. There's not much difference. See, scientifically, there is a different ratio of protein that is required for them and all those things. But in terms of just how they are naturally, I don't see that much difference.
And
Yeah.
a lot of people, including me, sort of rely on externally provided, you know, cat food. And for the last year or so, I've been giving her this cat food that's supposed to be made from fresh meat and it's frozen, and so it's kind of as good as fresh. But before that, I used to just buy, normal cat food, and of course, we don't know what it tastes like. We don't, unless somebody's mad enough to try it themselves. How how important is it for us to not just blindly trust what manufacturers are saying they're doing, and how, can we make our own food for our animals and make sure we get the right balance of nutrients?
Yeah, I think it's very important. See, a lot of the dogs and cats, they do like the kibble or whatever it is, but I've seen like that's just 5% of the animals that I've spoken to, and I've spoken to a lot in the past 7 years. The
Mm,
rest of them always prefer fresh food, and it's very important. Um, how do I explain? You should cook for your dog and cat at home.
yeah.
It is very important because you know what is going into the food. Like, say for example, for dog food, on the packet you will see every nutrient except for the carbohydrate content. And carbohydrates are not actually required by the dog body, but somehow that's the most in the kibble and they don't mention it behind the packet, so no one will ever even try to calculate. There's a way of calculating the nutrients behind and seeing how much carbohydrate is there. I don't know why they don't write it behind, but they're people are misguided because they don't know how to read the labels.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean, if we
making,
read
yeah,
it, we wouldn't understand most of what's
yeah,
in there, like, what?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's such a good
There's
point.
lack of awareness when it comes to dog and cat nutrition because we, for so many years, have thought that we're just supposed to give them dog food or cat food, not
Yes.
realizing, what could be going wrong with that.
Yes, yes. And is there anything that we should definitely not give? I know things like chocolate and sugar is not good, and maybe
Yeah.
salt as well. But in general, are there particular foods that we should simply avoid giving a dog or a cat because it could be harmful?
So chocolate is the main.
Yeah.
Onions, grapes, coffee,
So
uh,
what's the first thing you said before grapes?
onion.
Onion. Okay, onion's not good for them. Is that
No.
both dogs and cats?
Yeah, dogs
Okay.
and cats both. Yeah,
So
grapes
chocolate,
are very toxic.
onions, grapes.
And caffeine, anything with caffeine is very toxic for dogs and cats. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So
Yeah.
avoid those. What about milk? Because here you're told that, you shouldn't give cats normal milk because they could be lactose intolerant. But in India, lots of people give their cats milk. So
Yeah.
what's the correct answer to that?
So I would give you two answers. One from a communicator's perspective is that check with the animal whether their body can tolerate it or not and whether it would benefit them. I know a lot of dogs that do feel that it's very soothing to have milk, cold milk. But when it comes to the nutrition perspective, raw goat milk is amazing for animals because it has a lot of probiotics. So it helps to improve their gut microbiome. But obviously, if the dog is, or the cat is lactose intolerant, you'll see that in the way they're able to tolerate the food.
Yeah,
So yeah, you just have it's like a trial and error sort of thing. But
yeah.
goat milk is good for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not sure it's easily available here, especially in raw form, but yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to know. All right. So I could talk to you for hours, Janita, but I know that we haven't got all day. So just maybe to kind of sum it all up in terms of if somebody listening to this conversation, A wants to get in touch with you, do you have a website or something that they can reach you on or find out more about you?
So I do have an Instagram page working on a
Okay.
website,
Yeah.
but yeah, anyone can reach out to me on my Instagram page, and I very happily share my number with everyone. So anyone can WhatsApp me. There are no restrictions
Yeah.
when it comes to that. Yeah.
And in terms of, obviously there's only one of you and you have a limited number of hours in your day. Do you envisage maybe doing some kind of courses that help, pet parents to just do some of this stuff for themselves? I don't mean teach them animal communication necessarily, but learning to read the signs that your animal is clearly trying to show you. Do you plan to do anything like that so you can reach a bigger
Uh,
audience?
Honestly, I have conducted communication workshops. When
Yeah.
it comes to understanding the science, I know there are a lot of YouTube videos and all that explain their behavior and their body language and those sorts of things. But what I've seen over the years is that every dog has a different way of showing a specific thing. So telling a person that okay, this particular aspect of their body language is trying to explain that they are angry, it wouldn't be fair to all the animals because it could be that another dog is trying to communicate something else through that that posture that they showing.
That's
So
true.
I yeah, generalizing it sort of takes away the honesty from yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like humans, isn't it? We can't just club us all into one way of
Yeah.
responding to stimuli. Um, and if there's kind of a message you would like to give to pet parents on, how they can make their pets feel more seen and heard, what would that be?
So honestly, I would say, especially when it comes to health issues, if your dog is trying to convey something to you, even if you don't have a communicator, just switch off your emotions, switch off your opinion, and try to just tune into what they're feeling. The answer will come, and trust their answer. I
Mm.
had a dog who had a really bad cyst on her back, almost the size of a fist. And they went to the vet, and the vet was saying, no, we need to surgically remove it. But the dog, so I was a part of this situation, of course. So the dog told me that I don't want to get it removed. Give me 3 weeks, mark 3 weeks on your calendar, and let me spend as much time as I can in sunlight. I will heal myself. So I told the pet parent, like, I know this is a tough call because you can't just leave a cyst like that, but you decide this is what your animal is saying. They did listen. 3 weeks marked on the calendar. Those 3 weeks, the dog has only sat in sunlight.
Yeah.
And at the end of 3 weeks, this whole cyst disappeared.
Oh,
So
wow.
just trust your animal when they're telling you something so specifically. Yeah.
This is so amazing. Listen, you are now part of mine and Bubbles' life for as long as my Bubbles is with us.
I'm
So
more than happy.
I am so, so thankful to have found you. So now kind of a little big picture question for you. And you are only 23, is that right?
22. 22.
22, you're 22. Um, as you kind of look out, this is obviously something you love doing and you're doing it now. If I was to ask, what does a fulfilled life look like for you? Um, is this it? I mean, do you consider what you're doing now
Yeah.
as
I do feel like this is a fulfilled life because every day comes with so many. Like, if I show you my phone, I have like at least 15 messages from 15 different pet parents, and a lot of the times when I'm speaking to them and conveying the message, people end up in tears because they're so emotional, and there's so much love involved both ways. So
Yeah.
I feel so full that I'm able to witness this love that is between parent and their pet. It's something that even human to human we don't experience. So being able to witness that every day with not just one but so many animals, I feel like it's the most fulfilling thing ever. Yeah.
That's amazing. And if you find yourself being inundated with requests, and obviously you want to take care of your own health too, have
Yeah.
you found a way to prioritize, to maybe create some boundaries so you don't end up with too much work, so which kind of diminishes your ability to take care of yourself?
No, honestly, in the middle, a lot of people told me that you need to have boundaries. But what I realized that if I like the best part of what I do is that I have to do it out of love. So
Yeah.
even if it's one more session or one more person that I have to reply back to at night, it's like I don't know, for me it's one animal, but for them it's, such a big change that could come out of it. So
Yeah.
I don't try to have those boundaries. I'll reply to whoever. All, I don't have boundaries with my clients. I know I should, but I do it out of love, and I give not just mine, but my sister's number, my mom's number to all my clients, because in case I'm sleeping and there is an emergency, they can call. I don't have such boundaries.
Yes, and that's lovely, and I love the intent behind it, but kind of almost like because I'm a mum myself, I'm sort of thinking, well, what about you? How do you prioritize yourself? Because it's like you need to take care of yourself, because if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're not going to be well enough to take care of all these animals who need your help. So you said about the meditation, but do you take time off? Do you go away on holiday so you don't have to do any of it for a week, 2 weeks, or whatever?
No, even when I'm on holiday, I reply. I don't think that I need to take care of myself that much because I do feel that the animals protect me. There isn't, like, I don't get drained out with this work. In fact, I get more charged with it. So if there is a day or two where, say, I haven't done this, that makes me feel drained. But when I'm doing it throughout the day, I feel so fulfilled and so happy that I don't need
Oh,
that break. Yeah, the energy just keeps flowing. I don't, require that me time.
that's so beautiful. And you look it. You are sort of, you look radiant. And
Yeah.
Janita, thank you so very much. Are there any sort of final words of wisdom you'd like to give our listeners about, their loving pets, or, if they're thinking about getting a pet, do you have any thoughts or advice for them?
Yeah, I do. If you have an animal with you, just surrender to them blindly. Even if it is your own life that you need guidance with, you spend time with your animal and everything just works out magically. And I've seen this not just with myself, but with so many people because animals have a psychic ability and they are amazing healers. So whether it's about their health or your life or anything, just spend time with them and keep everything aside, and there's always a way, like they will always make sure that you are happy. So there's never, I don't ever feel like you're spending too much time with them or you're spoiling them, because that's not a thing.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you for
Yeah.
that message. And you said you're on Instagram, so can we put the Insta handle in the show notes, so if
Yeah,
people want to get in touch with you, they can
definitely.
DM you through that. Janita, thank you so much. It's been absolutely a privilege, to have you here and talk about what you do. And you are such a great example of following your heart. And by the way, I think your parents are wonderful to have
Yeah.
allowed you to just, be and do what feels right for you. And I think that's so key, isn't it? You
Very lucky. Yeah.
know, blessed, you are blessed, and we're blessed, because we have you to
Oh,
help us out. Thank you so much.
thank you for having me. Thank you.